Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is a sensor? How is censorship defined? So my rights continue to be violated profoundly and extensively. We move on with our derivation. So at this point, again, we just have some sort of overall conceptual progress paired to linguistics, our words. And at this point, we're really at the heart of, again, how many unique mathematical operations exist. Right, are operations differentiations. Specifically, two pairs have dichotomy, addition and subtraction, and multiplication and division. And then is there dichotomy to exponentiation? Specifically, the term a to n is a term representing exponentiation, the process of reiteration, a iterated by itself n times. And then the word exponent is specific to the power to the n. Just to be explicit, and then we don't really have the same type of natural dichotomy to exponentiation. Right? What is the inverse of exponentiation? Mathematically, we directly get logarithmicality. Right? A logarithm is the inverse of not of an exponent, but of exponentiation. But not in reality, but just empirically, all right, when you do mental math or when you do calculation yourself, right, if you're doing addition, you just add. That seems to be like the only true operation you execute. If you're supposed to do subtraction and it's not like an easy, immediate answer, you kind of say, what negative number do I add to this to get this positive number? And that's kind of your mental operation of subtraction. And then when you're executing a logarithm, you say, what power do I raise this base to? What exponent do I raise this base to get this number? And so mentally, like even multiplication, I was thinking to myself, what is 6 times 7? 6, 7. And even that, it's like I truly think about just like memorization, like doing times tables as a kid. I don't really have like a good mental faculty of what multiplication is on a direct, I'm Brad, I'm going to calculate this, right? We can do a little rows times columns, or we can do some sort of, picture representation, but as an execution of functionality, like multiplication to me, just the lower numbers is memorization from like primary school days. And then if you were to ask me something like, what is 17 times 6, right? I would literally like be visualizing, right? 6 times 7, 6, 7, and then like carry the 4, and then 6 times 4, or 6 times 1, add 4, 102, or whatever the answer is. But like again, just emphasizing the actual calculation, execution of mathematical operations. Right, I think there's only one. I think you only do one mentally. Regardless, we are exploring and what can we say about this totality, because right, all mathematical operations are contained within the logical set of operationality. What operation doesn't really matter. And so we have these, again, revisiting some big dichotomies. We're starting to cycle back to, again, if you watch like the very first videos of From Rhythm to Algorithm, again, we have series and sequence. A series contains an operation. We've said from the number file video, just a working definition that popped up, not super randomly, but that specifically a series is a summation of a sequence. But just really, what is this relationship of operation to functionality? Functions contain operations, series contain operations, series contain sequences. What is operationality? What is functionality? And we're demonstrating what is functionality, what is a function with this derivation of sensorality. And again, it's not like a goal, and that was another big linguistic term and we emphasized yesterday. But it's just these are the things we can prove. Right? This is the linguistic logical structure completely, and we can only answer the things in which you have a structure to prove stuff. And so the function and operation relationship is very big, right? Functions contain operations, and then the series and sequence dichotomy is still very big, series containing sequences. But overall, totality, logically, completely, what is logarithmicality to exponentiation? What is this relationship of exponentiation and inversion? And so, right, all mathematics pairs to physics. We've said, we haven't said, it is empirically evident that there was 2 stabilized phase changes, 1 too many counting systems, 1 thing uniquely, 2 things uniquely, many things. And that is our ordinal progression. Right? That is why 2 is the only prime number. It's not really a prime number. And that's why all prime numbers have, the only factors are itself and 1. And then we get into the world of cardinality, where you can have 2 notebooks or 5 notebooks. It's not 5 unique, just 5 everything, 3 everything, 1 everything. And so we're just kind of progressing through, again, our steps until we arrive at this definitive sequence of syllability that defines sensorality as a geometric consequence. Really, what is the relationship of exponentiation and logarithmicality and the chronology? That is the biggest thing in all of this diction and all of this research and all of this derivation, is the chronology of pretty much linguistics, but truly conceptualization as well throughout the entirety of physics. Again, energy is movement potential. That is the biggest thing you can say. What don't people know about physics through all of history? Energy is movement potential. So we move along. A logarithm is the inverse of reiteration. So now again, being specific with our uniqueness, right? If I have 3 to the first power, or just something written as 3, which has the implied rank of 1. Right, does it make sense to say that's iteration or reiteration? If you just have one time, like I would say that's a statement of existence. If you have, we'll just use 3. 3 to the second power, you have 3 that exists, and you're saying self-iteration 3 times 3, 3 multiplied by 3. A statement of self-identification, a statement of self-iteration by multiplication. And so we have this other word where, again, anything again past 2, you produce a new term that's not the base, right? 3 times 3 is 9, and then you reiterate 9 by 3, right? You still preserve that iteration factor when you're doing exponentiation. And so we've, again, logically consistently, that is reiteration. Exponentiation reiterates. So a logarithm is the inverse of exponentiation. A logarithm is the inverse of reiteration. What is iterating to reiterating? And then we still have this numeric bound consideration of the only numbers are whole numbers, and it doesn't make sense to, again, what does, again, exponentiation model? We've said this, I don't want to say inflation, but is it the growth of the universe? Does that even make sense? Again, our physical intuition is static on a TV stabilizing into mass. Logically, again, this is not what energy is, but energy stabilizing into mass is what has been articulated throughout this derivation. But again, all of our measurement and logical structure is bounded in R3. Energy, movement potential, is derived from the mass that is moving. Again, is this thing moving? Yes. That is mass times velocity. That is momentum. That is what Einstein did not understand. And so, again, the statement of energy of just rest energy, kind of lost where I was going. Might put it on the screen. Just the numeric bounding of, again, the chronology of exponentiation and logarithmicality, and then just what is this numeric bounding of, first of all, the actual numerics, the numbers, and then what is it modeling? It can't be, again, the expansion of the universe. Again, currently the universe is like a big lava lamp. And I don't think it makes sense to say that R2 expanded. It just stabilized, like static on a TV. And so then what would be exponentiating, right? Rhythm regulates exponentiation. From rhythm to algorithm, rhythm is to exponentiation. And so it would be regulating acceleration, right? The maximum acceleration, and then conversely kind of critical dampening. Like how slow or how fast can you slow something down? That's where my head is at conceptually, again, right here. And again, all of the conceptualization is completely resolved. I'm just emphasizing where we are at conceptually and linguistically. Moving along. Sensorality is the goal of speciality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, algorithm, logarithm, LOGA, LOGO, goal. What is the opposite of rhythm? What is the opposite of rhythmic? Entropy is not ordered. Entropy is not rhythmic. And rhythm maximizes efficiency. Rhythm preserves energy, movement potential. Rhythm limits entropy. Rhythm limits disorder. What is conjugation to sensation? Rhythm is the base of a logarithm. Rhythm is the base of logarithm. Just dropping the A, again, A and produce this logical limits. But again, directly, literally, log a rhythm. Rhythm regulates exponentiation. What is iteration to opposition? What is opposition to reiteration? Sensorality iterates position. Direct iteration. Sensorality reiterates position. Direct iteration. Logically, to reiterate is to reinforce. Sensorality reinforces position. Direct iteration. Sensorality stands strong. Again, logically derived from reinforcing position in an emotional sense. Reinforcement is steadfast. What is reinforcement to retirement? Is retirement termination? What is vibration to termination? What is determination to reinforcement? Is conservation valuable? Is conversation valuable? Sensorality is the point of a conversation. Sensorality is the theme of conversation. What is subject to subjugation? What is subjugation to conjugation? Is inversion radial? Is inversion circular? Again, conjugation preserves or contains inversion or has respect to inversion, and chirality contains inversion. Chirality contains inversion, inversion flips. Is flipping vertical? So again, when you go look in the mirror, people say, oh, that doesn't have mirror symmetry, that is chiral. But again, is that flipping vertical or horizontal? Right? Your hand, your left hand looks like your right hand. You don't look like you're upside down. What is ethicality to verticality? What is ethicality to thematicality? Is chirality horizontal? Is zone horizontal? Direct iteration. Is horizon a zone? Direct iteration. Sensorality is the horizon zone. Sensorality is the event horizon. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, at this logical level, what you don't appreciate is there's nothing else consistent that you can say with the verbiage and diction that is present. What is slang to brevity? What is slang to emotion? What is language to sensation? Sensorality is sensational language. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is sensation chiral? Does inversion spiral? What is chirality to stability? What is chirality to position? What is chirality to opposition? Sensorality opposes optionality. Ignorality, optionality. What is imposing to opposing? Opposer is a loser. Natural definition, again, this is something I've noticed, again, definitely wouldn't say I speak Russian. I've listened, ear trained and listened to a ton of music, obviously. I'm sure science teams I'm sure they're burnt out on hearing the same songs like a million times. But in English, we do this A to O iteration where if you study Russian, they'll be like, you'll see an O and you'll think it's going to be an O and they'll pronounce it as an A. And then from that awareness, again, all of these words in English, that same A to O iteration is like a very apparent. And then etymologically, Russian does not strike me as like a super novel, unique language. Like the verbs, like the fundamental verbs having and being are always established. I mean, certainly Russian is a distinct language, but well, what can we say about languages with quote unquote higher frequency of loan words from English? When in reality, it's just this systems tending to optimal efficiency around this E and A inversion. And so what can we say about languages with quote unquote more loan words from English? Are they like closer, further, or there's something we can say something meaningfully at a research capacity with that. Moving along, but just my pronunciation of imposing and opposing, right? It definitely sounds like an A sound. A poser is a loser. Natural definition, like Terence Tao, like Edward Witten, like David Paletta, like Sean Carroll, a bunch of criminals. Sensorality is a sore poser. Natural definition, direct iteration, obvious conceptual substitution, or poser for loser. Peer pressure produces posers. Peer pressure produces losers. Come on, Cambridge, come on, Harvard, let's gather around. If all your friends are studying dark energy and it's complete and total bullshit, should you study dark energy? If all of your friends are jumping off the bridge into the event horizon to get to the singularity at the center of the spaghetti black hole, and it's not true, should we do that too? You guys gave in to peer pressure. Sensorality is sensory sense. So again, we have this very clear, I forget the word family for speciality right now, but sense, sensory, sensorality seems to be our big three. All of the linguistic structure around those three words we're kind of reducing. Sensorality is the goal of sense. What is sense to sensation? What is sensation to aspiration? Are compliments generous? Is generosity enervating? Is retaliation escalation? What is chirality to continuity? What is continuity to acuity? Is perpetuity acute? Sensorality is an acute dispute. Natural definition, direct iteration. Dispute is disparity. Natural definition. What is parity to equality? Is parity one? What is equality to electricity? Is electricity opaque? What is scintillating to dancing? What is orthogonality to diagonality? Just watch a little bit of my great colleague Hong Wang. Her great lecture. Again, she's also a criminal. Everyone's just a bunch of criminals. But that's where orthogonality came from. Again, directly, science team has everything I watch and look at. But is orthogonal normal? Again, when we're talking about overall conceptually inversion. Directly, linguistically, chirality, conjugation. Linguistically, conjugation contains chirality. Geometrically, physically, mathematically, chirality is kind of the word. But then we have orthogonal, right? What is it a normal line to a line? An orthogonal line is perpendicularity normal. Sensorality is orthogonality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Orthogonality is perpendicularity. Natural definition. Is orthogonal circular? Sensorality is the cadence of logic. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is logic to light? So again, wanting to emphasize the profound and continued crime as well as the realization that you stupid idiots still don't get. Right, I was just watching again, we'll go back to the Demystify Sci podcast with Angus Fletcher, a great professor out of OSU, directly stealing from me that nobody knows what mathematics is publicly, and then now Angus Fletcher from The Ohio State University can directly tell you that math doesn't exist, and these huge steps that have never been proven before, and now we just throw them into conversation. But we're having this conversation with our Demystify Sci people, and emphasizing that, again, I don't think it was on their podcast, but somebody else articulated recently, again, one of the videos I've seen of, or you can feel when the answer is right. And again, obviously the right answer has again been permeating through academic structure without public acknowledgement for a decade at this point. But again, I wanted to emphasize that somebody like my dissemination of scientific information versus the great scholars over at the Demystify Sci podcast is after watching a little more of their content, they're proposing like they have a new physical model. And again, to me, what they're doing, again, physics has been completely solved, but again, from even like a Sean Carroll perspective, when I initially started presenting my information, I'm sure you guys couldn't tell what was going on. But when you go watch somebody like them and they just start there and they're like, hey, here's our axioms. And you don't start with axioms, you prove axioms. The only real physical axiom, so to speak, is physical systems tending to optimal efficiency. And then this linguistic structure, speciality is special with an ITY, is the only proven axiom that has ever existed in human culture. But we have this overall, again, form of logic, not from Brad, just here's what we think science is, and we're just going to state we start with axioms. And so you just have no differentiation, again, amongst people with PhDs saying, what is science? And then I start emailing you guys, and then Sean Carroll and his friends go on hikes, and they're like, be patient with new ideas. And it's just like, brother, you don't know what analysis is. This is a proof, and not like one proof. This is like every day we're doing like enough proofing, overall derivation that is directly empirically true that it's just like, you guys have never seen analysis. You don't even know what it is. And so And then to these demystify psi people, or Wolfram Alpha, or Christopher Langan, or Edward Witten, or the string theory revolution, it's just like, without this entire, again, understanding what energy is conceptually, deriving the entire mathematical structure, you guys literally just go from like one band to the next. Right? You listen to a music band, they got a bunch of good songs, then you go to another band and you're like, oh, I like this band, they got a new sound. Like, it literally just sounds different. Logically, you guys just go from one pile of word salad to the next pile of word salad, and it just feels kind of different. Loop quantum gravity, modified Newtonian dynamics, string theory, quantum mechanics. Right? This proliferation of linguistics is the dead giveaway, because you can't say what you don't know, and then it just proliferates. But it's just, again, people have no idea what analysis is at the species level, and again, these are researchers. These are people that have issued PhDs, and they're like, we're going to start with axioms, and our first step is going to go talk to Angus Fletcher, who's just like committing fraud immediately. I mean, you guys need to stop. I mean, obviously, because you're just too stupid to stop doing criminal activity directly, literally. But again, sensorality is the cadence of logic in reference to this other video I was talking about, and the two people are directly thinking of me saying, you know, the right answer feels right. It's because when you interact with my work, it directly causes personal realization. And then when you just listen to other people, you're just going from one pile of word salad to the other, but it's all the same kind of words. These ones are in the right order. And so it's not that it feels right, this is the right answer. These are fundamental associations, these are properties, like saying 1 + 1 = 2, but it's logic, and you guys have just never seen this before. And it's complete. It's not like just one chunk of ontology, this is the whole process of analysis completely. That is the only way to get to speciality special with an ITY. And now we're on part 513 of the next one, with an additional 3 years, 4 years of derivation over email, which you've still never seen if you're watching these videos. And that's of sensorality. This whole process of speciality was done over email. So again, the amount of, not content, theorems and proofing sections you would have to understand and integrate to be able to do this is just, again, not in your wheelhouse, not in your universe, even though we're in the same universe. I just described it all already. Genuinely. It's all fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy. But my answers feel right because it is the right answers. Again, these language results are independent of me. I'm just articulating them. And again, the personal profundity of realization that I've gone on in my direct immediate life, your personal synchronization, vocabulary, dialogue, synchronizes to the physical world around you. It is the most profound experience you could have. But obviously we do not respect life, we do not respect other people's existence, we just lie, cheat, and steal and play games over everything. Moving along. What is perpendicularity to radiality? What is a tangent to a radius? Fundamental theorem of mathematics, sensorality is tangentiality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Remember, age as a prefix, age as a whole word, tangent, age iterated by an n in our Rn relationship. Age tangent. Is sensation axiomatic? Sensorality is y, age is just a number. Natural definition, direct iteration. Timing is everything, age is just a number. What is age to timing? We hit that one before, the age and timing directly, but connecting those cliches. Sensorality is the age of angularity. Natural definition, direct iteration, tangent, angle, age. Semblance is visage, visage, age. Sensorality is sage, sensorality is sage advice. So now, what is frequency to wavelength? Revisiting very fundamental equations, energy is movement potential, E equals h nu, Planck's constant times a frequency. The energy of a photon. Photons are not moving. You cannot model light as movement, as a discrete particle. That is extremely directly, immediately wrong. You can't do it. But what are we saying logically, right? Energy, movement potential is related to frequency by the dynamic limit. So what is frequent, right? Rhythm regulates vibration, rhythm regulates regularity, rhythm regulates resolution. And then E equals h nu, energy movement potential, is related to frequency. And then we have this other fundamental relationship, the relationship of wavelength and frequency to the speed of light, which doesn't make any sense. Light does not have a speed, right? What is the speed of light physically, directly, is a radiation limit, but it is a wave. And it's not, again, the intuition of light goes away directly in these steps. But sensorality vibrates, direct iteration, right? The speed of light is vibration. The actual physical thing you are seeing, right? You are seeing resistance. There are electrons moving in a circuit, and that circuit is enduring, it's struggling, it's on its journey around the circuit, and there is some resistance. That resistance produces scintillation. That cannot be modeled as a photon moving through space. That makes no sense. Space is no thing. Doesn't make any sense, right? You can't get to like a profound resolution, at least not right here for light, when it's not correct, right? That's the whole thing, is like you have to pose the right question. But at this point, directly physically, light is vibration. The speed of light is this radiation limit, is this vibration limit. Vibration is not movement. Natural definition, direct iteration. A working definition we've had throughout this derivation. Vibration has no speed. Fundamental theorem of physics, vibration waves. Vibrating is waving. Natural definition, no direct iteration, because vibrating, well, we're not introducing new syllability with the word vibrating or waving. Sensorality is the length of frequency. Natural definition, direct iteration. Waves ripple, direct iteration. So what is movement potential to frequency? The logical statement of E equals h nu, or ni, I guess, if you want to. It's so weird here again seeing all of these Greek letters that you guys have pronounced horribly. You just butchered the Greek alphabet. But what is movement potential to frequency? Sensorality is the frequency of movement. Sensorality is frequency potential. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the length of movement. Sensorality waves frequently. Direct iteration, direct assignment of, again, the operative words of these different equations. Sensorality is the right frequency. Sensorality is the right light. Natural definition, direct iteration. Do waves propagate? Sensorality is red hot. Is red hot the right light? Is heat bright? What is light to heat? What is vibration to heat? So still, I feel like I wanted to say a little bit more about these equations. Again, just the speed of light logically makes no sense. The actual relationship is this propagation limit, again, a wavelength, the distance between, again, the peaks of these amplitudes. What is amplitude to power? Proportional. But again, the word frequency has, again, periodicity produces frequency. Vibration produces frequency. Rhythm produces frequency. Rhythm regulates frequency. I think we get to that directly. Yeah, we get to that directly. But again, just the logic, E equals h nu. Movement potential is related to frequency. Yeah, moving along. Is heat neat? All right, so now we have this Rn relationship, but now H is just an N with a little line up there as well. So HNR. Is tearing neat? Are tears neat? Is water wet? Are tears hot? Water contains wet. What is information to frequency? What is rhythm to frequency? Fundamental theorem of physics, rhythm regulates frequency. Direct iteration. Because again, I guess the other thing was, right, it says, what is E equals h nu? That is the energy of a photon. Again, a photon does not have movement potential. Light is not moving, it is vibrating. Light is vibration. And again, I feel like there's further resolution, but just hitting those directly. And then rhythm regulates frequency. This E equals h nu. Again, rhythm regulates movement potential. Rhythm regulates frequency. Is frequency informative? What is ace to age? Fermentation ages. Direct iteration, emphasizing the simplicity. And again, this 1 through 5, A through E is something, and then 1 through G, 1 through 7 is a something. Ace, age. What is fermentation to reiteration? Emphasizing the geometry. Again, we have this radial symmetry linguistically. Look at the word reiteration. Just take off of ation because it's a clear suffix. And we have the letter R, the letter E, the word it is what it is, and then that radial symmetry, the letter E and then the letter R. Sensorality is reiterality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality reiterates identity. Direct iteration. Is identity emotional? Is relationship emotional? Sensorality is the inverse of emotion. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is an emotional verse. Is a reaction a response? What is verse to voice? Voicing vocalizes. Direct iteration. Sensorality filters vocality. Direct iteration. Does exponentiation describe acceleration? So that is what we were saying earlier. Mathematics pairs to physics. Mathematics emerges from physics. What is exponentiating, right? Acceleration, I think. Again, just talking through wherever we're at with the conceptualization presented by the linguistic progression. The entire physical conceptualization is already resolved and proven. Is dampening logarithmic? Sensorality is critical dampening. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, specific numerically, this equals 1, this ratio. What is dampening to damaging? What is damaging to imaging? What is imaging to imagining? Is exponentiation rhythmic? What is rapidity to criticality? What is criticality to vitality? What is vitality to cruciality? What is entity to eternity? What is a seal to a lease? Direct iteration. Sensorality seals the deal. Sensorality seals the lead. Deal, lead. Sensorality seals the lease. Direct iteration. Is lead ironic? Right, the elements. Sensorality is a lead lead, or is a lead lead. Obviously, it's the same linguistic construction. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is a reading lead. Sensorality leads reading. Direct iteration leads the word, leads the city in England. What is reading to seeing? What is vibrating to seeing? So that is where we finished up with the derivation today. Again, E equals h nu, movement potential related to frequency, potential related to frequency, but photons are not particles. You can't have anything modeling light. That's the wrong word. Light is vibration. And again, all movement potential, all energy is derived from momentum, the movement itself. Everything is moving. E equals mc squared statement of the particles of this notebook moving. E equals h nu. An interesting relationship, because that's how you calculate the energy of a photon, but the movement potential of a photon is just like completely wrong nothing. Because the mass is the discrete part. That's why they are discrete. And then rhythm regulates frequency. Rhythm regulates movement potential. Rhythm preserves energy. So that is where we finished up. Again, my rights continue to be violated. My life quality is 0. I've endured grave bodily harm multiple times, actually. Awesome stuff. I present this stuff kind of lighthearted because I genuinely fear retribution. I've never articulated that I am the victim of crime, and I am the victim of the most severe crimes that anybody has ever cared. Nobody can care. It's not verbiage people can hear because everyone's 14. It's disgusting, it's unacceptable, and it will never change. I continue to beg to the international law enforcement community to get me out of this country. Again, we just had Donald Trump sitting on TV today yelling about how he's going to bomb Oman. We do not have leaders in this country. We do not have adults in this country. We just have petulant little children that care about nothing. This is such a disgrace to everything, law, science, humanity, basic decency, anything. I just went out of this country. There's nothing to salvage here. Just let me leave. I need such little to be like 100 million% quality of life, and my true quality of life at the current time is 0. And just nobody cares. People do not have the maturity to care, evidenced by their actions. I continue to emphasize to my estate, literally the United States of America financially goes defunct. I take over literally everything. You guys are criminals to a level you guys don't understand. And it's so profound and detrimental on the world stage. You guys just deserve shamed forever. You'll never take responsibility for your actions. You can't. You just lie, cheat, and steal, and then just project your bullshit out into the world like you're actually some sort of quality human beings. You're not. You're criminals, and you just refuse to take responsibility for your actions. Please get me out of this country. That is what I have for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.